The Raiders are headed to Mile High, looking for their 9th consecutive win over the Broncos. Can the Raiders cool Sean Payton's squad after Denver's 2 big wins? NFL Media's Steve Wyche chimes in. And Raider Nation Radio's Q Myers stops by to tell us why this could be a defensive battle. Plus, when Alexander Mattison has the ball, good things happen. We talk offense with the Raiders running back. It's all ahead. The Silver and Black show starts now. Welcome into the Silver and Black Show. I'm Amber Theoharis. It is on to Denver as the Raiders have a chance to go 3-2 against a team they've dominated the past few years. But Sean Payton is finding his groove in his second year there with a top 2 defense. And the Broncos, they just can't be overlooked. Just ask the Jets and the Bucs. They messed around and found out. At least that's what the kids say these days. But this week, the biggest challenge for the Raiders will be staying focused amongst a lot of noise. Can young players like Trey Tucker, Charles Snowden, and Isaiah Pola-Mao continue to step up with star players out? Week 5 will be brought to you by the word consistency. And to talk about the matchup, we welcome in my very good friend Steve Wyche from NFL Media, chief national reporter. And hey, man, I like you with the black background. You're looking good. How you doing, Steve?
Well, you know, as you brought to my attention before we went on camera, it's the silver and black.
The silver and black. We got it, man.
Contrast.
You can't call me out, man. We got to keep the offline stuff offline. But hey, Steve,
there we go.
We appreciate your time. We know there's been a lot of work for you this week, but what are you looking forward to in this game? What will you be looking for early in the game?
Yeah, I mean, especially early, that's protecting Gardner Minshew. And that doesn't necessarily mean the offensive line keeping this dominant sack-heavy defensive front from the Broncos off of Gardner Minshew. It means running the ball as well, because there's going to be some opportunities. As we know, this defense, they've allowed, 16 points the past couple games. They're allowing 13 points per game. You know, they're really good. Vance Joseph has got something working with this defense, but they're not great against the run. So I really want to see if the Raiders can get this run game going, maybe with an expanded role for Alexander Mattison early on, so they can have some balance, really control the tempo, and see if they can really poke some holes into what is a very, very good Broncos defense.
Yeah, and you know what? Might be without Davante Adams again. The Raiders have been getting a lot of national attention for speculation around Davante Adams. Antonio Pierce, his comment is just on to Denver. You've covered many teams in this situation. What is your take on it?
It's really tough. And look, several times it's been with the Raiders. I mean, when they made the change, the coaching change, I remember to Rich Bisaccia a couple years ago, they rallied. Players really rallied, right? This was a very emotional and tough thing. This seems like it's a little different. It is player involved. It seems maybe there's been a slow burn with this. And it's an opportunity for players like Jakobi Meyers, you know, to kind of really distinguish themselves, even though they've played well. But again, it's going up against a tough conference opponent early in the season while the Raiders are trying to find their offensive identity. So again, when you have this type of uncertainty, especially with someone as high profile as Davante Adams involved with this, it's a challenge. But remember, he didn't play last week, and they beat a very good Cleveland Browns team with that defense. So it's all about focus, right? We talk about guys compartmentalizing, not listening to the noise. This is a big test for the Raiders in that category to see how mature they can be.
Yeah, and that's a great point. They won without Davante. Don't know if they can continue to do that, but they did that. And one of the great storylines was we saw guys like DJ Turner get his first career touchdown, other receivers, young Trey Tucker step up. Do you expect this receiving core, everybody to kind of pull their weight, especially with a tight end like Brock Bowers out there?
They have to. Look, there's too much season left, right? Regardless of if Davante comes back or not, these young players, they have to show themselves. And this is what we talk about, seizing an opportunity, right? Against a team like this with Patrick Surtain and that pass rush, it's not going to be easy, but do some of the small things that show that you're progressing as a player, that you're progressing as a unit. I do expect them to get better, like as the season goes along. And this is a very, very tough challenge for them. Again, this Broncos defense, and you watch them on film, it's real. Like, it's not like they're holding teams down or the weather impacted this or that in their previous games. It is a real defense. But Brock Bowers, a dominant player, right? We saw, you know, Jakobi Meyers, they're going to have to pick and choose. It's not going to be the same every week. And maybe this opens things up for these guys. But I think this week especially, they've got to get the run game going if this passing game is going to have any success.
The pass rush, I think, is especially what you got to watch out for from Denver. We saw last week they kept Aaron Rodgers on his back. Baker Mayfield the week before that, 12 sacks total the past 2 weeks. What do you think Luke Getsy can expect to see from Vance Joseph's group? A lot of heat.
A lot of different looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of different looks. That Vance Joseph is known for that. Maybe he's playing coy the first couple of series, not blitzing or not running a lot of games up front. Or maybe he comes out of the gate just to have total chaos to make Getsy get off the script a little quicker. It's a very unknown with a seasoned veteran defensive guy like Vance Joseph. I mean, they faced him before. They know what he's like, but now he's got personnel that he's moving all over. He's manufacturing pressures. You know, they don't have necessarily that one guy who gets in there. You know, you see Cooper, the outside linebacker's got 3 sacks. So they're mashing it up in a lot of different ways. So it's got, to me, again, that's why I say they have got to establish the run game. They've got to get the offensive line going forward, exerting their physicality against a very physical front to say, hey, we're not gonna be moving backwards and let you guys tee off on us. We're gonna be coming at you. And that's why I think, again, they've got to get Mattison going. They've got to get this run game going to give Gardner Minshew some options to move the pocket and things like that. It is going to be the number one priority to me if they've got a chance, and that's to have some modicum of success running the football.
Yeah, and on the other side, though, the Broncos' offense is struggling. I mean, Bo Nix threw for 60 yards and completed less than 50% of his passes last week against the Jets. How can the Raiders' defense, especially their defensive line, take advantage of that?
Well, look, looks like Max Crosby's going to be back. We don't know that for sure yet, but if he is, this might be a game where you won't see the sack numbers, but it's got to be the disruption numbers because Denver has an incredibly quick passing game, and we know Bo Nix will give it up. He's got his share of interceptions, so guys have to be ready for tipped balls. They've got to be around what their keys tell them, but up front, Wilkins, Crosby, they have got to be quick with their disruptions to get in his face. And the guys in the back end really have to do their share because this is one, that quick passing game, they can't do any pre-snap tells or try to really minimize some of their pre-snap tells to make a young rookie quarterback guess a little bit or maybe eye down a receiver a little bit. So they're going to have some opportunities. Again, Bo Nix has turned the ball over, and that's where this defense has got to put the offense. The Raiders defense, I should say, has got to put its offense with some shorter fields because this could come down to a kicking game, and we know the Raiders have, they have one of the best kickers in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that'll bode well for the Raiders. And, yeah, it'd be great to have Max Crosby back if he's able to go. He eats against the Broncos. I mean, we've seen that in the past. But I think the good news is last week, much like Devontae being out, we saw a lot of young defensive players step up, whether it was Charles Snowden, plenty of other guys. What did you see from some of the other, I've been calling them the unusual suspects last week?
Well, look, they were very disciplined. And that's one thing. Patrick Graham's defense does not work unless you're disciplined. And when we talk about discipline, that's not getting too deep on a pass rush. That is hitting your marks on if an offensive lineman comes out to block you a certain way. Hitting your marks is to where you don't blow a gap open. And I think that really worked. They were able to get pressure on Deshaun Watson, kept him uncomfortable every time he tried to pass. And the DBs were sticky, right? They didn't let the receivers get open. So all levels worked well. And so we really know, how good of a band leader and effective of a player Spillane is at linebacker in the middle. So you can see his communication and getting everybody on the same page working, and the guys stayed disciplined. That's going to be very, very big the rest of the way, even when Max Crosby's back.
I like that you bring up Robert Spillane. I feel like he's one of the more underrated linebackers right now in the NFL. He's top 2 in tackles. He's tied for second in tackles. And with Max out, he really was the leader of the defense in a lot of ways. Really quick, any kind of bold prediction you can think of, something we'll see in this game?
Wow, bold prediction in this game. I think Jacoby Myers goes big. I think, I don't know if they're going to have Surtain travel with him or not, but if they just kind of play their standard defense, I think Jacoby Myers has an opportunity to make some big plays, especially the yak type of yardage. I don't know if there's going to be opportunities against this rush for the deep air yard type of catch, the shot plays, but let's see if Jacoby Myers steps up. I kind of like his situation here.
I love it, Steve Wyche. It's always good to talk a little ball with you. Tell me where we can see you. NFL Network, what days?
Well, game day preview on Sundays and Monday night roundup after Monday Night Football. I'll be in there both shows with Mike Yam, a wonderful host. And then next week, I will be in London for the Jags-Bears game.
Man, you get all the good assignments. That's when you're chief reporter. That happens. Hey, Steve, we appreciate it. Good to see you, my friend.
Appreciate you, Amber.
Coming up, Raider Nation Radio's Q Myers stops by to tell us why points could come at a premium in Week 5.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And timelines never stood around for me. I've loved every sky I've
Oh, set me free, chains and holding me. No time to sleep. The daylight's coming fast and it's counting on me.
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Taste is not an option. Taste is everything. 1800, the world's most awarded tequila.
The Silver and Black Show is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. 1800 Tequila, official partner of the Raiders. Taste is everything. Please drink responsibly. And by Allegiant, the official airline of the Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights, only at Allegiant.com.
John Watson, the shotgun, play action. He pumps out to the right. He settles. He's looking for a deep shot. He fires over the middle. It's bobbled by Cooper and picked off by the Raiders. Merrick has it, and he's brought down at the 48-yard line.
Somehow the Raiders always seem to come up with highlight reel plays against the Broncos as they go for their 9th consecutive win this Sunday against Denver. To tell us why defense might be key on both sides, we're going to say hello to the homie Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio. What's going on, Q?
Hey, chillin', how you doing? It's always great to catch up with you.
Always great to catch up with you. I'm glad you're on my show. Always going your show. I'm glad you're on my show here.
Right.
Q, this is
right.
Vegas. This is Vegas, so we can talk about points totals. The point total for this game is around 36. So that means the big dogs right here in the desert think this isn't going to be a very high-scoring game. So does it feel like this is a defensive battle in the making?
There's no doubt about it, right? And first of all, just look at the opponent. Look what the Denver Broncos have been able to do. They're only allowing 13 and a half points per game. That's nothing, right? Less than 2 touchdowns per game. That's nothing. You saw that barn burner that they played in last week against the Jets where they won 10-9. So I know that it was sloppy conditions, but you only give up 10 points or give up 9 points, I should say, in a game. In an NFL game, you're doing something. So, yeah, the defense for the Broncos is, I think, fantastic. They're doing a really good job. And on the other hand, I think the defense for the Raiders is really coming into form and starting to show what we all expected it was going to start to look like. And even without Max Crosby, they're able to get to Deshaun Watson quite a bit last week against Cleveland and held their first opponent under 100 yards rushing. So that, I thought, stood out as well. And guys that don't necessarily have household names are stepping up and saying, hey, don't forget about me. I could could play too.
That's right. I mean, the defense right now, if you look at rankings, which numbers don't tell the whole story, but they're the middle of the pack. Strangely, they have their best statistical game without Max Crosby. There's really not an explanation for that other than, like what you said, the other guys stepped up. Who do you expect to continue to step up and maybe make that move that Malcolm Kuntz did from a role player to a star player?
Well, first of all, I think with Christian Wilkins just being on the defensive line, I think that helps out everybody. That's why everyone was excited about his addition there in the middle of the defensive line at that defensive tackle spot. But I have to say that Charles Snowden seems to be that guy. And I know he finished off the game last week against Cleveland with that big sack, and that was huge because Cleveland actually had a couple guys open. They could have won the game if Watson got that ball off. Luckily, he didn't, and the Raiders came away with that victory. But if you notice, Amber, and I know you pay attention to the details, my man is fast off the line of scrimmage. When that ball is snapped, he is, boom, he just shoots out of there. And I actually said that to him in the locker room after the game against Cleveland, because against Carolina, if you remember, he had a half a sack, and him and Wilkins met at the quarterback at Andy Dalton. And I said on that play, I think I even tweeted it out, he shot out of a cannon. He just has that quick get off and that quick twitch is, I guess, what the cool term is to use. But he has that, and he gets off really fast. And so I asked him, does it feel like the game is starting to slow down to you a little bit when you're out there lined on the defensive line? He said, yeah, it is. And I have a lot more to show and a lot more to prove. So Charles Snowden is the guy I would circle and say, watch out for him.
Yeah, they just make them different from Silver Spring, Maryland. I mean, I just had to throw that in there. I'm from the same place as
I ain't mad at you.
You know, just make it different. We're built different, as the kids say. Hey, I don't know if you saw this, and I know you and I think the same. So Tyree Wilson was the Raiders' highest-ranked defender, according to PFF, in Week 4. And I'm going, wait a minute, okay, we didn't see a lot of, on the stat line, it didn't really show up. But what are you seeing from him?
I agree with the ranking, which is funny because PFF is kind of, it's what it is, right? I mean, you take it for what it's worth. But I thought just watching it with the naked eye from the press box, he had his best game. I thought that he was productive. I thought he was a guy that got a lot of pressure on Watson. Now, he didn't come up with sacks. That's the next step is completing the mission. But as we know, as we saw the maturation of Max Crosby, it was a lot of pressures. Then all of a sudden it started leading to sacks. And so I think that Tyree Wilson, he really did show something. Now, I want to say that, Cleveland was pretty banged up along the defensive line or the offensive line. So, they had some backups in there, but to me, that doesn't matter. You get off and you play the best that you can. And I think Tyree started to step up and realize, hey, my number is going to need to be called a couple times too, because 98's not out here. So it's going to be, all hands on deck. And I think that he showed up. Snowden showed up, obviously, as I mentioned. There's other guys that showed up as well that I thought played big roles. So, yeah, I think Tyree, if he can continue on that trajectory and keep on working at it and grinding, it's been a slow process for him. There's no doubt. I'm sure he'd be the first to admit that. But if he can continue to develop, that can only be a good thing for the Raiders defense.
You mentioned Snowden, you mentioned Tyree Wilson, but to me, the guy that really stood out was Isaiah Pola-Mao. What are you expecting from him? Did you see this coming? I mean, he's been here for a couple of years. It seems like he needed the opportunity with Marcus Epps out.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it, and I have to always credit Vinny Bonsignore, he identified him early in the process. And this was a couple training camps ago. Just standing out there at the practice facility, he said, Q, something about 20. He's always around the balls. He has something. He has some kind of play-making ability to him. So I was like, okay. And I just kind of paid attention, and he did. And you're right. He needed an opportunity. The one thing I can say about Isaiah all the time, I don't mind saying it to his face either, he's always around the ball. Even when he came into the game late against Carolina, he dove in the back of the end zone and almost came up with an interception. Like, he always has a nose for it. And against the Browns, he had that big pass breakup. Him and Nate Hobbs collaborated on that pass breakup on a 3rd and 4 play that I think would have been like a 40-yard completion. They broke that up. It was just really, he's very instinctive. That's I guess that's the best way to word it. He just knows where the ball's going to be, and he knows how to arrive there, and he does. But yeah, he's a guy I think Raider Nation should get excited about because he could definitely play.
Yeah, if he's anything like his uncle, we'll take that. Hall of Famer Troy Polamalu.
Yeah,
how about the offense? They finally run the ball. 152 yards, supposed to be a run-first offense. We hadn't seen it all year. What did you see worked against the Browns finally?
Just getting the ball to the outside. That was something that, and I have to give the coaching staff, I got to give them a lot of credit. That's something when we talked to the players in the locker room, like DJ Turner and Trey Tucker, they said, yeah, we saw that we can beat them on the outside. We saw that our speed can get them. So you saw the jet sweeps, you saw the reverses, you saw, plays like that, the end arounds. Like they were using those for a purpose, not just because it's something that Luke Getsy wanted to call, but something that they identified on film that said, okay, Cleveland is weak in this area, so this is how we could beat them. So I got to give the credit to the coaching staff for that. With that being said, I want to see if they can do that again, because as you mentioned, this is supposed to be a run-first team. This is supposed to be a smash-mouth team. This is the first time they've gotten over 100 yards. They went over $150 against Cleveland. So can they do that consistently? That's my big question. Is that what we're going to start seeing normally, or is that just a one-off?
Well, we're going to talk to Alexander Mattison coming up in the next segment after you. But I said on Raiders game day that, to me, he is the more dangerous of the two backs right now. Doesn't mean that's how it's going to shake out in the end or anything against Zamir White, who's a little bit banged up right now. Antonio Pierce said that he's earned the right to have more reps. Yep. Do you feel like that's the case? Go with the hot hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something that AP told us as well, that he was going to go with the hot hand. And, he only had a handful of carries and went for 60 yards, but he's been effective all season. Alexander Mattison has been one of the best players the Raiders have had on offense, period. Right. And he hasn't had a whole lot of snaps to do it in, but already has 3 touchdowns on the season. He just seems like that guy that understands the assignment. And he's been a guy that's ran in this running scheme his whole career. So I think that was important to get him. And Zamir's still trying to get comfortable. Right. I mean, this is one of those running schemes where you have to be patient, boom, hit the hole. Well, Mattison knows that. Zamir's still trying to learn it. I think right now I would go with the hot hand of Mattison. I don't think it's going to be where he's going to just be the lead dog, but I think you're going to see the number of carries more evened out as opposed to what you've seen before, where Zamir did the heavy lifting and then Mattison came in for a few snaps here and there. Yeah, I think he's earned the right, as AP said, to get more snaps and more carries.
And it might just be that Mattison has played in his own run scheme before, and Zamir's still getting used to that. So maybe we'll see Zamir coming in a little bit more, rising more. Q, the stats are pretty glaring when it comes to Gardner Minshew. When he gets rid of the ball quickly, under 2.5 seconds, he completes his passes. So how does he attack this Denver defense that is not only number 2, it's very good against, it's a very good pass defense?
Right, exactly. He's going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly because, man, they'll come after you, right? I mean, they'll get to the quarterback. They'll sack the quarterback, which is going to put a lot of pressure and strain on the Raiders' offensive line. But he's got to just have that boom, boom, get rid of the ball. Snap, boom, boom, get rid of the ball. It's got to be that quick. He's got to be decisive. I think that's the best way to sum it up. He has got to be decisive with what he's going to do with the ball, right? And, Jacoby's going to have to step up and get open quick. He's a guy that always tells me, all I do is just get open. I don't know how I do it. I just get open. So he's going to have to do that. Brock Bowers is going to have to be a guy that they're going to have to target and get him involved early, right, just to kind of loosen up the defense. But if they can get the ball out of Gardner's hands really quickly, it may slow down the pass rush. And the pass rush is why their passing defense is so good, because they get to the quarterback quite a bit. So that's something that Minshew's going to have to work on. There's times that even when he doesn't get the ball out of his hands, and I've seen some green grass, and it's like he hesitates. Like, if you're going to run.
Just go.
Yeah, if you're gonna
just go.
Just do it. Just do it, right?
It's like yelling at your kid at Pop Warner. Just go. What are you waiting for? It's kind of the same feeling, but obviously he's a pro quarterback and he knows when to go. But I think he's getting more comfortable, and we're seeing that. Yeah. You and I talk all the time about turnovers. I feel like we've been talking about it for the past 3 years. Is winning the turnover battle just probably the most simplest way to sum up what the Raiders need to do this weekend? Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that they have an opportunity to do just that. Bo Nix isn't just lighting the world on fire with his quarterback play, right? I mean, I know that they've won some games. They've won a couple in a row. I get that, but that's on the strength and the heels of their defense. I mean, he hasn't just been lighting it up. So as long as the Raiders get pressure on the quarterback, and they actually have the same amount of win percentage as the Broncos do with getting to the quarterback. So clearly they can do it with or without Max, right? Preferably with him. But, whatever the case may be, there's guys that can do it. That's going to force the quarterback to make bad decisions and rush their call. And when they do that, that's when guys like, Palomar can make a play. Guys like Jack Jones, Jacorian Bennett. Shout out to JB. What a season he's having right now, especially on third down. If it's a pass breakup, JB's got it on third down, on the money down, as he told me in the locker room afterwards. Like, that's what he does, and he has really come along as a second-year guy. The next step for him, get his hands on the ball. Nate Hobbs, same thing. It's a contract year. Go get it, right? Go make that money. So these guys have opportunities. Spillane, He can get his hands on the ball. I mean, there's chances to make plays, and Bo Nix is going to put them out there a couple times. You just have to go make it, and I think that they can. Merrick, tip ball, tip drill. It's about time that the Raiders come up with those tip drills. So often they don't. They started to do that the last couple seasons, so that's nice to see them come around and start to get those turnovers. So, yeah, win the turnover battle, win the game. Simple.
You talk about third down. Under the radar right now, the Raiders are a top 8 offense on third down. So the money down they have been taken care of to a certain extent. Doesn't mean they can't get better, but doing a pretty good job so far. Q, I appreciate you, man. I know how busy you've been this week. You do 47 shows a week for 20 different networks. Hardest working man in show business, so thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you. Anytime you call, you know I'm there.
And real quick, where can we get you on Raider Nation Radio?
Raider Nation Radio 920, 2 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can catch me. Unnecessary Roughness.
Love it. All right. Thanks, Q. We'll catch you soon.
Appreciate you. Yep.
Coming up, Antonio Pierce. He said, we just mentioned it, this guy needs the ball more. Is he going to get it? Alexander Mattison sits down with us next. Raiders.com is your home for all things silver and black, featuring exclusive interviews with players and coaches, breaking news, and daily content. Raiders.com keeps you up to date all season long.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
Oh, set me free. Chains and holding me. No time to sleep. The daylight's coming fast and it's counting on me.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And timelines never stood around for me. I've loved every sky
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Los Raiders en la yarda 31. Minshew con el balón. Viene con su válvula de escape Alexander Mattison. Mattison, buen salto por encima del jugador de los cargadores y se va a ir. Hashtag hasta la cocina. Touchdown. Mera y gol. Viene acarreo de Alexander Mattison y Mattison se mete. Hashtag hasta la cocina. Touchdown.
You can catch Harry Ruiz and our Spanish content on the Los Raiders Oficial Facebook and Instagram pages. Hanging out with Raiders running back Alexander Mattison, who actually you probably could translate Harry Ruiz's call that we just heard. A lot of people don't know. ¿Tú hablas español?
Yeah, sí.
¿Sí?
Hablas español.
¿Cómo aprendiste? Where did you learn? How'd you
I
learn?
learned it when I was, so my mom put me in a program when I was in first grade called the Dual Immersion Program in San Bernardino, California. And, you know, growing up in Southern California, there's a lot of diversity. So she thought, you know, learning about the program, this would be a great opportunity for me. My brothers, who are about 2 years older than me, they were too old to start the program. So she was like, well, you're going to do it. And yeah, here I am later, and I'm bilingual and biliterate.
That's awesome. And I feel like you're just a man of a lot of different talents. You're also a father. So before we get to the matchup with the Broncos, there's just so much going on in your life we got to get to before we even talk football. Congratulations on your son, Akil.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is it true that you scored a touchdown in week 1 and then against the Chargers, and then you race home and you actually got there by the time he was born?
Yeah, definitely. It was an eventful Sunday, and I made it back in time. I got to the hospital at 8:15, and he was born at 9:22. So perfect timing, and yeah, it was a great Sunday.
I think your wife Dre is she's the real champ, right?
Oh, yeah,
She was just
definitely.
waiting for the game to be done.
Yeah.
She kind of like just waited, and I was like, okay, now we can have the baby.
Yeah, I was surprised she didn't panic. Her water broke before the game, and I was like, oh, just hold it down, and she did, and yeah, she's doing an amazing job right now, just being strong through it all and holding it down, yeah.
Well, congrats on that. And also congrats on what's happening on the football field. Let's talk about the Broncos. They are the 12th ranked run defense, so they're number 2 defense overall. What makes them so tough? You've been studying them all week.
Their effort shows up on film. They're going to try and fill every gap and not leave holes in their defense. They're a team that you see it on film that they're trying to be around the ball as much as possible, and that limits the opportunities, that limits, the yards, that limits the big explosive plays. But we definitely know what we have on our side, and we're going to try and do the best that we can to be effective and efficient and hit some of those holes in their defense.
You guys did finally get that run game going against the Browns last week. What was clicking?
I think it was, one of those things where, you come out and you fire off on all cylinders, everyone doing their 111th, and we just clicked. And that's something that we've been feeling that we just needed to showcase on Sunday and really get going. And a lot of credit to those guys up front, moving the line of scrimmage and getting on those blocks and receivers. The effort down the field to block on the secondary for us backs was also big. And as a team, just having that will to win, that will to get that running game going, it definitely got established.
I like what you just said. You said everybody does their 111th. I've never heard that before. Where'd that come from?
That was something that was born in college. At Boise State was one of our things. The culture there is contagious, the winning culture, and a part of that was everyone doing their job. Not one man can win a football game by himself, but as long as I do my 11th, there's 11 guys on the field. If we all do our 111th, then everyone's right, and everyone, gives us the opportunity to win.
I'm gonna get the T-shirts. Do my 111th. I can see them right
That's
now.
a good one.
No, you've been doing it. Antonio Pierce, he said that you deserve more reps. What has been your mentality since coming to the Raiders regarding your role?
Just trying to be the best version of myself, day in, day out. And when I step on that field, try and be a game changer. Try and be a guy that can give some juice to this team, to this offense, and not only that, just star in my role, whatever that capacity is, whatever that is, just make sure that I'm doing the best of my ability to do my job. And it's one thing that I've learned throughout my career is that as long as you do your job and be the best version of yourself, then good things come from that. So just leading with that mentality.
I know you're probably not a guy that checks your stat line, but you're on pace for a career high in receiving yards. You got pretty good hands?
Yeah.
Is that something you've always seen yourself as, like, hey, Luke, I can catch the ball too if you want to throw it to me?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things that I think maybe because of my stature, the way that I run, that kind of gets overlooked. But I mean, since college, I've always been a back that can catch out the backfield, and pride myself in doing so. Even in the off season, making sure that I'm tuning up the hands and making sure that I'm still catching receiver type balls and everything like that. So yeah, it's something I'd like to say that I'm well versed in, and hopefully, as the season goes on, we'll just continue to see that unfold.
You work in the jugs machine ever? You out there?
Not so much. I like to catch a natural.
You're like, don't go that far.
Yeah.
I'm still running back.
Yeah, I know those, the machine gets it, like the speed up a little too high for me. I'm like, I just need a natural thrower, quarterback to go ahead and position it for me, yeah.
I love that. We have spoken a lot on a lot of our shows about the identity of this offense. What would you say it is?
Man, that's a great question, because it's one that we want to establish as a gritty, tough, downhill offense. And I think last week was the first week we really were able to feel our identity come to light. For the most part, on all cylinders in the pass game, the run game, play action. And I think going forward, we're going to be able to see that shine through a little bit more. Just the physicality, the grit, the determination, and that effort. And I think, we might have to go ahead and tag that phrase 111th. I think if
Yeah,
we
we're
have
going to make some money here, by the way.
we have to make some shirts or something.
Yeah,
I think
somebody call it the trademark. Yeah, we're going to do that.
But I think that's the mentality that we're going to have to lead with, is just a 111th mentality and identity that, you know, no matter what, that's what we're going to do and how we're going to execute, and we'll get the job done.
I know you kind of just answered it, but what would you say needs to happen? If you could start with one thing that needs to happen in order for the Raiders to get the win in Denver, what do you think it would be? Where do you start?
Definitely starts with us and that O-line up front. I think we get the run game going, and we, like I like to say all the time, early and often. If we can get it early and often, we'll be good. And from there, we have to make plays. Playmakers have to make plays. Our receivers, you know, we have some very explosive receivers, a great quarterback that's leading us, and then that defense. That defense plays lights out like they always do, we'll be good.
One last thing, not only are you guys having babies, you and your wife, you're speaking Spanish, I said you do everything. You also win community awards. NFLPA Community MVP last week, and that's because you took some fans to a Raiders game. Tell me a little bit about that, and also where your commitment to service comes from.
Yeah, I mean, so we were able to bring out 2 families for the month of September, which is a part of the Rush to Give initiative from my foundation, the I'm Gifted Foundation, where we do just each month of the season, we want to make sure that we're emphasizing something. And September for me is my family, my reason, my why. And so we wanted to do something for 2 families in need, 2 families that have been through a rough time and overcome some adversity, and bring them out and present a core memory opportunity for them, because I know in times of stress and adversity, some of the key things that keep people going are those core memories. And, you know, through mental health studies, it's shown. So creating a core memory for that family was something that was important to us for future reference when it comes down to any struggles mentally, anything like that. So bringing them out to a game, giving them one-of-a-kind Raider experience, it was really something that me and my team were able to put together, and it was a blessing to be recognized as the community MVP. But for me, it's all about, you know, giving back, using my platform to do so, and it's always been bigger than football for me. I was a kid with a dream, and now that I'm living it, I just want to make sure that I can impact and inspire others to continue to chase theirs.
It is inspiring. I think we could all try to focus more on making core memories regardless of our situation. So thanks a lot for being here with us, Alexander, and hopefully we'll see you run all over the Denver Broncos.
Amen to that. Thank you.
Coming up, the future is bright. How Raiders role players are showing they can be playmakers next in One Last Thing.
Taste is not an option. Taste is everything. 1800, the world's most awarded tequila.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And timelines never stood around for me. I've loved every sky I've ever seen.
The Silver and Black Show has been brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders, Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Las Vegas Raiders and the NFL. And by Allegiant, the official airline of the Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights, only at Allegiant.com.
It's Las Vegas Raiders and Denver Broncos.
Defense, offense, let's go.
Longtime AFC West rivals.
We'll be passionate, we'll be physical.
Pocket collapses. Down he goes. Max Crosby again.
We got to do whatever it takes to win.
Open man, the 5 is Myers. Catches, walks in. Touchdown Raiders. Antonio Pierce and the Raiders beat the Broncos for an 8th straight time.
Time now for one last thing. Some of the Raiders' biggest moments since moving to Vegas have come against the Broncos during their 8-game win streak. But those were in the past, and no amount of historical dominance over a team ever guarantees future wins.
First and foremost, we're not going to talk about being 8-0. We're 0-0 this year against that team, and we got to go out and do a great job of handling the crowd noise. They'll be excited, especially with 2 wins on the road back home now. I know over the last few years, it's kind of went in our favor, and that's great. But we got to do it this year in 2024, and that's our mindset.
All right, so who's going to make plays this year against the Broncos? Well, let's give a little love to the role players who last week showed they can be playmakers. 5 guys had career days, guys that we don't usually talk about a lot. With Devontae Adams out, DJ Turner notched his first career touchdown. On defense, Charles Snowden tore it up, especially in the pass rush with a sack and 3 quarterback hits. It's no wonder his parents reacted just like this when he ended the game. I love that so much. Our buddy Brian Baldinger of NFL Network, he did a whole Baldy's breakdown on Adam Butler's standout performance. And with Marcus Epps out for the year, safety Isaiah Polamalu was out there looking like his Hall of Fame uncle, Troy Polamalu. That was on 3rd down, this play right here. Yeah, that's a big one. It's no secret the Raiders will be shorthanded again this week, and once again, it's a chance for lesser-known players to put themselves on the map. That'll do it for us. Raiders at Broncos, 1:05 p.m. kickoff from Denver. Have a great weekend, everyone.